Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about B2B, how you can build marketing engines. And I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Katya Bovykina. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on today.
For me, it's a big pleasure. I want to learn more. I check out your stuff. I know that you know exactly what you're talking about. You know how to share value. And even more, it's interesting, I met many times Katerina in my life. I love this name because my mom is Katerina. My ex-wife, she is good, Katerina. So, and right now I want to learn more about from Katerina. Before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about marketing for B2B and building marketing agents.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've been in B2B for most of my really career in marketing. And kind of started with some of the B2B clients when I was back at the agency, and then I joined an in-house team for a B2B software company for, and I went stayed there for about 6 years, and so kind of learned the in and outs of the B2B in-house for a software company. Just really went into and did like a deep dive into it in-house, and then about just over a year ago I decided to go on my own and set my own consulting practice. And so since then I've been working with many B2B companies, startups, and some of the more mature companies as well, purely B2B. So I only do B2B, and I specialize in software and technology companies. And so my biggest motivator to go on my own and to kind of start my own consulting practice was to go and help the B2B companies build their engines, as you say, right? So build their kind of these marketing ecosystems, because what I found in my line of work when I was in-house is that there's just not enough information, or it's structured, or you kind of really have to go and out there and really look hard for it when it comes to really building the marketing systems, marketing kind of lead management models, and build out overall these like marketing machines for B2B. And so information is out there, but it's really kind of, piece here, a little piece there. And so um, I thought I was able to build that machine at the company. And so I kind of took some of these sort of knowledge, put them more into a playbooks, and now I do work with some of the sometimes smaller, sometimes kind of medium-sized businesses that are in B2B technology companies, and help them build their systems that are efficient and that are kind of generating results, and that are they're performance based essentially.
Nice, nice. Love it, love it. It's interesting that I got the message about you from my audience. Someone asked me, what is the age of this girl? She's so young. I replied, yeah, she's young. She looks young, but she's so smart. So check out this stuff and you can understand that it's valuable to learn from Katerina. So yeah, and I'm so excited you shared about your experience. Love it. And I have the first question. Can you tell what is the main difference between B2B and B2C? Because I see when marketers use the same approaches for B2C, for B2B, by using generic templates, marketing channels. But yeah, we need to consider personalization, that our customers are different. Can you tell from your experience how to differentiate them and what is the main difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think you're right in terms of when you look on the surface, you see a lot of B2B companies and B2C companies using very similar techniques, right? When it comes to SEO, you kind of have the best practices for both. When it comes to some of the paid channels, it's also, you can see very similar techniques that you're using, as in terms of like keyword research and things like that, right? when it comes to kind of like some of the other things. Like, okay, it seems like, it's marketing is marketing sometimes, right? But when you kind of, I think for me, the big difference is when you dig sort of one layer deeper and go into sort of, but what does it look like from the kind of the back end of the marketing engine, right? Of that marketing thing. And that's why I find that B2B is starting to then have some of these difficulties, differences. And I find that B2B marketing is much more relationship based. When you're defining your personas, you can literally go on LinkedIn and you can say, if your buyer persona is, the head of IT or the IT manager, you can literally type it in and you can find a person who would buy from you, right? Like it's not, I find that the personas, when you're working on personas in B2B marketing, they tend to be much more, related to human. Like there's a human right there. You can see them. You can go to see their LinkedIn profile, what they look like. And you can literally reach out to them and say, hey, like, you can actually do the outreach to them, right? And that's kind of one part of the B2B marketing is when you have sales outreach and marketing kind of working together is when you're actually reaching out to these people. And because of that, I think there are certain techniques that are unique to B2B. When we talk about account-based marketing, like you don't have account-based marketing, for example, in B2C so much, right? Because you take an account and you kind of go after a certain company and you kind of start to try to do approach it from that account-based level. It also because of that, the buying cycles are longer, of course, a lot of times, not all the time, but most of the time, B2B sales life cycle are longer. And it also gives you that opportunity to build that relationship with somebody else, right? Like maybe you're going to send them direct mail. Maybe you're going to send them somebody from the sales are going to reach out to them. Maybe you're going to invite them to a webinar. Maybe, marketing, they're going to receive a marketing collateral information. So you have these more touch points until the buy. And because of those, you are essentially building that relationship.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think another big difference for me is in B2B, I find that the content marketing is slightly different, and is where you have much more opportunity to create this educational content where your buyers don't necessarily know how to do things, and it's much more process related. And so the content I find is a little bit different as well, and content marketing plays are different where it's much more educational. That's why I think kind of sometimes marketing gets like a bit of a bad rap for having like the white paper, like the boring content, they call them boring content when you have like the white papers and the guides and sort of all those types of things. And yes, sometimes they can be boring if they're not kind of done correctly. But that's why companies do this, is because they're trying to educate their buyers that go through their buyer journey.
Yeah, interesting, valuable. Okay, let's talk about reaching out to decision makers. And for example, okay, we need to achieve a company, but the company consists of human beings. Yeah, and in the end, we need to reach out to another human being, to share what kind of value benefits you can bring to the company, how company can grow with your products that you market to them. Because the reason why I'm asking about that, I get every single day 100 messages. Please buy guest posting, many other stuff, name them, they don't care about me. They don't care about anything. And, it's interesting, but that my spam box loves these messages, a lot of them in my spam box. So I lead them directly because I don't know these people. They don't want to learn more about me. Some of them can reach out and tell, I know that you love fashion. guys, it's my only one t-shirt, for the week, I'm not good with that. So yeah, and I think it takes time to learn more about recipients, and we don't need to reach out to company. You need to reach out decision makers who can transfer your benefits to other people who can decide, yeah, to buy your products or not. Can you tell more about personalization? Because you mentioned about LinkedIn. I think you use LinkedIn to check out profiles, to learn more about recipients. Just share how you learn recipients, practical tips, and how to write the right message that people wanna consume.
Yeah. I think it's a very difficult question, to be honest. And that's why a lot of people are, as yourself, and I get those messages all the time. I think we all do, right? You are a part of some list, and those lists don't get updated. I get calls about a position that I like, about a position that I was like maybe like 4 jobs ago, right? It's like, oh, you're like a manager of digital marketing. I was like, yeah, like 4 jobs ago, or like 5 jobs ago, I was. So please stop calling me, So there's a lot of it. To be honest, it is a big issue, right? It is a big issue. A, keeping your database clean. B, reaching out to people with the right messaging, right? And C, making it almost appear as if, kind of making it appear as if you care, right? And some and companies do care, right? Like it's kind of that idea is that we actually do care about our buyers. Is just how do we optimize this outreach, right? And I think that's where a lot of companies try to almost over optimize it or over automate it, where it kind of loses its purpose, right? And it becomes a pure numbers game where you have like, oh, I need a list of like 100,000 contacts, and then we're gonna have a conversion rate of like 0.5% or something, of like a response rate, and you're just kind of like, really, like, is what you're doing, right? So I think a much more, yes, it does make sense to sometimes automate and optimize certain things. I like, that's why we have all the tools that we have, but you almost have to do it in a very careful way where you don't offend your customers, right? When you don't like, when they don't think that you are just spamming them. And I think that's where it comes. You kind of need to kind of care, and also you need to make sure your messaging is the right messaging, and then you kind of make sure that you go there at the right time in the right place, right? So there's like, just recently I read about a really cool example of that, where a company they're kind of in design subscription Superside, where instead of bombarding people with emails, what they would do, they would, for example, one of their sales reps, where they will follow their kind of account, like their ideal personas, right? Like the people who they want to sell into. They will find them on LinkedIn, but they won't spam them right away with messages, right? They will just kind of interact with their content first. They would like their post, maybe share their post first, and then maybe they share something with them, right? Or they kind of start maybe, interacting. And the way social media algorithms work, right? Like if you interact with a certain person or a certain company or a certain type of content, you're going to get more of it, right? And so you're kind of letting LinkedIn to serve some of that content to your buyers, right? Until the point when they interact, right? So in the kind of example that I've read recently was the potential buyer. He, I think, liked one of the posts through that interaction. He ended up liking one of the posts that the sales rep posted or shared, and it was about 10 best books on design, right? And then he liked it, the posts, and he obviously interacted with it. So then it kind of gave the sales rep this opportunity to go back to him and be like, hey, I saw you like my post. is there a particular book from that list of top 10 that you like the most or that you want to read maybe, right? And it was very personable, right? You kind of like, oh, okay, something interactive with my content. Obviously they design books, like can I start a conversation there? And that person then, they ended up kind of interacting, and the sales rep sent the physical book to a different country, you know, that person wanted to read. And he's like, I really wanted to actually read the book. And now my physical copy of that book is on the way, right? And for a company, it's not that much of an expensive kind of investment to send a kind of a gift like that, but it's very personalized. I think that's where you kind of have to start looking for these smart plays that are treating people like people, right? They're not treating people as contacts in their database. There's a contact name, email, but they're actually treating people as people, right? Who have interests in their professionally, right? They also have interests outside of their profession, you know? So it could be done right. I find that it also could be done kind of not so right sometimes. I remember I got as like almost like the opposite example where I got a gift from a sales rep like that from a company, and I guess they couldn't find that much information about like things that I like, or you know, kind of like didn't know what to send me. But on my Twitter, it was on my Twitter profile picture, it was a picture of me with my dog, and so you know. And so I think they just kind of assumed that I like dogs, which I do. And you know, and they sent me like a toy dog in mail, and they're just like, oh, we noticed you like dogs. Like, do you want to talk about our software? And I was like, well, it's cute. It was so irrelevant, right? It's like it's not at all relevant to what the company did. So it almost felt a little bit stockish in a way, but also very kind of, you know, but it's like, but I do kind of recognize that they put way more effort than some other companies that did not do that, right? So it's kind of, but it's like, does that make me want to buy their product? I don't know. I don't think so, right? I don't think I ended up kind of working with them and kind of going further, but it's, you know, those are different kind of examples, right? Different, you can either go just sort of do outreach and just to be like, hey, like this is our product, do you want to learn about it? You can kind of try to do it personalized, and it can go both ways. I think for companies practical tips, I think it's just trial and error, learning maybe from other companies how they do it, trying to find these little playbooks and try to find these little flows and test it out on your market, test it out and see what works for you.
Yeah, love it. You know, Katya, you unhided some of my secrets. I thought I'm alone in this world, you know, who use them, but yeah, you use the same approaches about personalization.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, listen until the end, and you will know more secrets from Katya. I didn't want to share them, but you can see that I can do anything with that. Okay, let's talk more about boring content. You mentioned this word, and I spoke with Jim Edwards. He worked 10 years in Business Insider. He started from scratch, and then he achieved, they sold company for $500 million. Right now, I think many people know about Business Insider. It's about business, about achieving high growth with your business, many other stuff about stock, even crypto. But, you know, he told me, the secret of their success is to create not boring content in boring niches. So they decided to create excitement content, entertainment content in boring niches. And that's why people love them. People want to consume this content. And you mentioned this word, boring content. Can you tell about boring marketing messages? I see them all the time. These messages have a lot of features, a lot of data numbers, but when I check out Apple advertisement, I can see story about someone who can use Apple. For example, I watch the presentation about new Apple Watch. After
Yeah.
that, I bought 3 pairs, because I can't buy one pair. I need to buy to my family members as well because they probably kill me. But Tim Cook shared 3 stories how Apple Watch can help others, without any features. It's not
Sure.
boring. Can you tell how to create excitement content? How to create content that people wanna consume? For example, if I see, I don't know, like Michael Jordan in a new advertisement, I love it, But when I see boring marketing channels, campaigns, I don't remember them. I can forget after see one time. Can you tell about creating excitement marketing campaigns?
Yeah, I think it's a really topic, like a big topic that I thought about a lot, and I'm very familiar with boring marketing content because I think it's very easy to do for companies. It's very easy to fall into the boring marketing content because I think a lot of companies, they want to talk about themselves. They don't,
Mhm,
they just want to it's almost like they're too close to their product, right? So they do think
mhm,
um they know the value of the product. They kind of have this vision of their product. They have a mission, what they're trying to do with a company. And they get super excited about it. They talk about it, they think about it, all day long, or 8 hours a day. And at the end of the day, I think it's a bit of a tunnel vision where they stop recognizing that people don't know about their product as much as they do know about their product and about the
mhm,
value that the product can bring to those customers. And I kind of like to think about it about that buyer journey where content falls within that buyer journey, right? So for
mhm,
example, at each stage of the buyer journey, there's need for different content and different types of content and different types of um, formats, right? Of different types of
mhm,
formats of that content. And so I'm kind of, because I work so much with B2B software companies, so I'll give that as one of the examples. And if you think about the B2B buyer journey, um, you know, you'll find that there is a small group of people who know already what kind of software they're looking for. So, for example, hybrid workplace software or e-commerce CMS software or like mortgage intelligence software, right? Like these are specific categories of software that already exist. And people know that's exactly what they need because they've done their research, they talk to people, so they kind of know that's what they need, and they're like looking for top 5 like software companies within the hybrid workplace software, right? And then they kind of go from there, and they like demo all of them and go from there, right? And so these people usually look for those keywords that have the word software, platform, or tool in them, right? So these are people that usually go straight to demo. They don't really, they don't really need to read that much content. They just need to know that you're the best company for them to work with in terms of this software, right? And those are like, people have done their research, they've done everything, right? And if someone is at that stage of the journey, the kind of content that you need to serve them, it needs to be to convince you that you're better than your direct competitors, right? So you kind of need to do those stories and the case studies, right? Like kind of um you know it's probably similar, that story, to like sort of to the story that you were telling about the Apple Watch, right? Like if we're kind of like doing the parallels with B2C a little bit more, and it's like you already know that there's Fitbit, there's Apple Watch, and maybe there's like another company, I don't know that much, but maybe like you kind of know that already, and you're just kind of like, oh, do I really need to buy the Apple Watch, or can I really, if I just need to track my heart rate and I need to track my steps, maybe I can go for something that's less expensive, a little bit more simple, and I don't need all the features that the Apple Watch provides, right? And then you go and you listen to that presentation, and they're like, oh, look, listen, like this customer did this, and this like customer did that, and then these are all the amazing things, and what if you one day you need all these features, right? And you kind of get bought into it, and then you're kind of become a customer after that. So it's similar here. It's like, yes, like we, like this company, so you need to kind of build the case studies and the testimonials, and you need to show your clients and anything that can kind of prove that, have a social proof. And that's where your content sits there, right? And that content, again, needs to be not boring, right? But you need to really tell a story there. You need to really highlight like why you're the best of the best, right? And then if you kind of move a little away, like there are people who don't know the categories. They don't know what those software, like this name of the software. They just know that they need, for example, e-commerce personalization. Like I just need something like a software that does e-commerce personalization. Whether you know that it is CMS software or a different kind of software, you don't know the category necessarily. You just know the feature because you have this one problem that you're trying to solve. You know that you have a problem of people dropping off your website because they don't feel like they're kind of welcome there. Maybe they don't feel like they're in the right place. So you think like, maybe if I personalize my website and I personalize my content to their behavior and their characteristics, maybe then I can improve my conversion rates, right? And so you're looking for that specific feature. You might necessarily don't need other ones, but you need this one feature because you're trying to solve this one problem. And then your content is going to reflect that, right? Like your content needs to be very much be like to reflect that, right? It's like, why does your CMS software need to have personalization? Like why personalization is important? Why e-commerce companies can no longer do their marketing without e-commerce, kind of like answer all of these questions, and maybe kind of create this sense of urgency and create this sense of like fear of missing out because like everyone else is doing it, and kind of create that kind of content and maybe around it, right? And create that content, and you can create because the content stops being boring, I think, when it's relatable, right? It's like, if you're looking for this answer, if you're looking for this, like, it doesn't matter, right? Like if you are, let's say like, again, kind of make a little bit of a comparison here, but if let's say you are like, like if you have, if you just go on like WebMD, right? And you're looking for all these like different like medical symptoms and everything. It's like, who wants to look at all that? Like nobody's going to go there just for the fun of it, right? Like it's going to be so boring. Like if you're just like there, what am I going to do there, right? But as soon as you have a symptom, you're like, what is this, headache that I'm having? What is it? Like, why do I have a headache, right? And then you'll start, when it's like, oh, you have a headache because like in your, right side, because, and it's suddenly becomes so relevant because you have this problem of having a symptom. And now these are all the potential, reasons why you may be having that symptom, right? And all of a sudden, this content starts having like, you're so related because it's like, what if I have this? What if I have that? Maybe I just need to drink more water. Maybe I'm just, maybe it's something, and so you start kind of like going into that. And all of a sudden this boring content starts becoming so interesting, right? And so if you're trying to solve a problem of, in my kind of example of personalization in e-commerce stores, if you don't have a e-commerce store, or if you don't really have that problem yet, or you don't know that that's a problem, you're gonna just skim through that content and not even think about it, right? Like you're not even gonna think. But once you know, you're like, somebody told me that I need to personalize my content, or my competitor is obviously personalizing their content because I can see it on their website, I can see it. I need to do something too. All of a sudden, this content becomes so relevant, right? And it stops being boring. And that's what I think the trick is, and not like the boring content is something that's not relevant. And as soon as it's less about blows and whistles and kind of like, oh, fun stories, but those always help. Humor, fun stories, nice kind of good design. Those are all really help. But if your content itself is not relatable, it doesn't matter. Right. And then I think finally, kind of if you move even further away from somebody who knows what they want, right, you kind of have this large kind of big section of people who don't even know that they need software at that point, right? Like it's what I found a lot working with tech companies is a lot of times people do what tech companies can help you do. A lot of their competitors are not other tech companies oftentimes their competitor is an Excel spreadsheet, because a lot of times people get things done in Excel spreadsheets, like employee attendance tracking, for example, right? Like you can have a software for that, but you can also create a spreadsheet that says like this is all of your employees, and you just kind of like maybe they enter it's like I'm going to be in the office on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'm going to be and then they kind of all see, everybody can see what they do, right? You can have that in spreadsheets, for example, and in that case, your content, it serves a little bit of a different purpose, where your content is supposed to tell a person that they have a problem, right? They kind of need to realize, they need to get them through this, like if they're searching for like employee attendance spreadsheet template, you need to get them from there and say like, hey, why kind of have a content, for example, it says like, why is like spreadsheets a terrible idea for employee attendance, right? And why you shouldn't be doing that, right? Maybe it's impossible to track, it's not safe, there could be like issues, you can lose data, people are getting frustrated, whatever it is, right? And kind of get them, was like, oh, actually, yeah, you know what, like maybe if I use a tool for this that also has a feature of tracking something else, maybe that's gonna really like let me look at what those options are. And I think at all like the different stages where you can map your content to the pain point or to the need of the customer, and that's how you create, that's what I believe. So it's not in B2B often, it's not about making like, it's not about boring versus fun, it's more like boring meaning irrelevant versus relevant content. And I think that's what a lot of companies in B2B struggle with, is to finding relevant content and building relevant content. One of my favorite pieces of content that I absolutely love, and there used to be this company that got bought out, they used to be called Funnel Cake, and the founder was Marco Slavic, and I came across their content, and it was about sales and marketing process, and it's about like systems, it's about like MQLs and SQLs and lead models, and that component can be boring. Like it can be, to somebody who's not interested in them, it can be super boring because like, oh, we don't like kind of deal with that, right? But to me at the time, it was so relevant because I was building a lead management model, and I needed all the information I could get, and their content just hit exactly where I needed to. It came to me, I found it at exactly the right time, it was exactly the right place. It was really well made. It was written in a way that was very easy to consume, and it also gave information. And I've shared that piece, and even though the company doesn't even exist anymore, I still have that piece of content saved, and I go look at it. To be honest, I refer to it back and forth because it's still, I'm finding, even like I've read it so many times, I find that I go back and I refer to that still. And that's what to me a good piece of content is, that it's like, it's not fun, it's not entertaining, as opposed to being boring, but it is so relevant to my job. And we did look at their products. So they had Funnel Cake, did have software, and we did kind of consider purchasing. We went through their buyer journey, didn't end up buying it, but we went through that buyer journey, like all the way to sort of the decision making, and I got the company involved, and my like CEO of the company look at their product because of their content, pretty much because of that piece of content. So to me, that is like the bit of a difference between kind of the fun like boring versus relevant content.
Yeah, love it. So valuable. Katya, I found one interesting thing. People in north part of our world, they're so serious, but your energy is quite different, compared to Canadian people. Yeah, you need to share where you can take this energy, to share this value, because when you speak, when you share this valuable insights, you do it with energy, with passion. I love it. It's more important. It's like
I love just because I've explored so much of it. I went into like the depth of the internet to find this information, and I love sharing it with it, because I do realize that, and I see it with like my clients too. A lot of of my clients, they don't know, and it was me before too, when I used to work in B2B in kind of in-house role. They don't know what good looks like. They don't know what a good lead management model or like good marketing engine looks like from the back end of it, right? It's not so much, it's like you go on a website and it's like, oh, they just did a redesign, and look, they're sort of like created this new category and they have all these like funky fresh colors, you know, and it looks like they're doing something correctly, but you have no idea. You don't know what kind of leads they have. You don't know what kind of, you know, what their funnel is, you know, how they're turning their leads into, let's say, I'm